Are your clients struggling with secondary infertility? If so, have you asked them about their first birth? In today's episode, I discuss my experience with a client who is struggling with secondary infertility. Hello, friends. This is Lynn Schulte, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started. Welcome to this episode where today I'd like to discuss the issue of secondary infertility. This came into my awareness when I had a client come see me earlier this year who I worked on. She told me I hadn't seen her since January of 2021. And she had told me that she spent all of 2020 going through 3 failed attempts of IVF. And I saw her in January of 21. And we worked on, when I assessed her, her uterus was just frozen. It just felt really hard and just almost dead feeling. You know, there was just no energy in there. And we processed her first birth, which was traumatic. And when I went to do the trauma release statement with her, her uterus didn't know that the birth was over. Her uterus still felt like she was in the midst of that birth. And to me, it's so interesting to have this sense that it's almost like the uterus has its own consciousness, its own level of consciousness, so to speak. And that, you know, her brain knows that the labor's over, the baby's out, that, you know, she's taking care of it. Yet her body, her uterus is still stuck in that moment in time. And so when I went to do the trauma release statement with her, which is, I've shared it on a couple of summits, but the trauma release statement is, we just ask these tissues, whatever tissues you're talking about, wherever your hands might be, but we just ask these tissues to release any shock or trauma in this area, knowing that the incident or, you know, the labor's over, baby's out, and everyone's okay. Now, obviously, you can't say that if there was a demise of baby or mom or anything, but we need to make sure that when we use that statement that we make sure that it resonates, every part of that statement resonates with the body, with the tissues in the body. So as you're saying, the labor's over, does the body soften a bit? Does the tissue respond to that? Do those words sink into the body as you say them? The baby's out. Does the body know that the baby is out? And that the labor's over? Those are 3, and then that everybody's okay. And when the uterus is still trying to get a baby on out, it's less likely to be open, to be implanted, to become pregnant again. And by clearing away the trauma of that previous birth and getting the uterus into a more receptive state, then fertility and becoming pregnant is going to be more feasible for the body. And this client that I worked with, she I worked with her one time, and as she was leaving, so we helped the uterus, we processed that first birth, we released the trauma, the uterus was like plump and juicy and happy again. And as she left that appointment, I'm like, well, have fun getting pregnant again. And she thought I was crazy because here she had just gone through 3 failed IVF treatments all last year. And this is early of 2021. And she left, and I'm like, have fun getting pregnant. Well, she did. She got pregnant that next month, that next cycle. She got pregnant on her own without any IVF. And so the uterus was open, receptive. It was happy again. It didn't feel like it was still stuck trying to get the baby on out. And she then came in to see me in 2023 to do her postpartum work after having that baby. And I was shocked. I didn't, I mean, I kind of had a sense. It's like, yeah, the uterus is fine now. Go get pregnant. You did it before, now it can. It was just stuck in the trauma of that first birth, and that did help her. I shared this information in a post in some group. Someone was asking about secondary infertility and what people are doing about it, and I just put out, hey, keep in mind, if you've had a previous traumatic birth and you're trying to get pregnant and you're not successful, you need to process that trauma from that first birth, and you may find you're more successful. And someone else then replied in and goes, oh, I've seen that too. I've worked with that in my clients as well. So it's a thing, everybody. And I just want you to become aware of this idea that secondary infertility could be caused by trauma in the body. And so if a person's able to get pregnant, no problem, or, it doesn't matter how much effort they had to put into getting pregnant. If the body became pregnant first and they had that baby, and now they're having a hard time getting pregnant, we need to look at that birth, and we need to see what that birth left in that pelvic space. What is the state of the uterus? The uterus should feel nice and soft, and the energy should be flowing in that pelvic space. If it feels stuck and the uterus feels hard, those are signs that, and to me, the pelvis, when the pelvis is dealing with trauma, it's like the pelvis is holding its breath. And so I just invite you to start feeling on all your clients, what does their uterus feel like? Their uterus sits just a centimeter or two above the pubic bone. So if you just put your palm right above the pubic bone and intend into their uterus, just receive information from that uterus, sense into, what does it feel like? Does it feel nice and happy and soft and flowing in there? Does it feel hard and solid and stuck? Those are signs that there's something being held in that tissue. And you could just start trying the trauma release statement. We just ask this uterus and all this pelvic tissues to release any shock or trauma from that first birth, knowing that the baby's out, the labor's over, and everyone's okay. And as you say those 3 segments of that statement, you need to make sure it resonates. If it doesn't resonate, you don't feel like it lands into the tissue, repeat it. The baby's out. The baby's out. And see if just your words is enough to cause that tissue to realize, oh, we're done here. The labor is over. You can repeat that if you don't feel like it lands. So I just invite you to increase your sensitivity to, how does the uterus feel? How do your words land in your client's body? Does it stay superficial, or does it sink down into the tissues? Does the body agree with what you're saying or not? That's what we're looking at there with that trauma release statement. And so please keep an eye on your clients, help educate them, let them know that if they're having a hard time getting pregnant, again, it could be from that first birth. And if you're interested in learning how to work more with this body and at this level, I'm revamping my advanced postpartum course. I used to teach it as a 4-day course, but it just wasn't enough. It was way too much information. It's very intense material that we're dealing with. And so I'm revamping it to give more space, to allow the students to really be able to integrate it more into their being and then into their practice. So I'm in the process of revamping that. I have taken the techniques, the physical techniques that I taught in the first day of that advanced course, and I'm putting those online. So the advanced postpartum techniques online course is the technique part of that 4-day course. And then the rest of the information will be into a more longer program that I'm currently in the process of developing, and I hope to have done sometime this fall. So know that you can access the techniques part, which is part of calming the nervous system, rebalancing the pelvic and respiratory diaphragms, working with the kidneys. There's three new techniques on the pelvis: the coccyx, the sacral scoop, and a new in-flare, out-flare technique that I teach. And then also talk about the first rib and OA and how to address those. And then working with the body, integrating both the local, regional, and distant connections in the body. And so those are all the techniques that I teach in that online course. And then we'll be developing that other program this fall, so you can check that out as well. That really is where the gold is and the magic is. The central nervous system is a big piece of helping people to calm down, to be able to receive the work that you want to do with them, and that you can get with the online course. And then learning how to work with the trauma response in the body and in the tissues, and what to do with that, and how to replay a birth, and how to help support someone in reconnecting into their pelvic space. That's going to be offered this fall again. So you can check all that out. So thank you for listening into this episode. Please keep in mind secondary infertility for your clients, that if they got pregnant the first time and now they're having a hard time and they can't get pregnant again, check out and see what that first birth was like for them. Check into the uterus, make sure the uterus is nice and plump and juicy and happy. And if not, use the trauma release statement and see what you can do in affecting change and getting the uterus more on board, that it's here today and it's okay to get pregnant again. All right. Thanks for listening in, everybody. And here's to smoother births and faster recovery. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code podcast50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn Schulte, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.